One of the most common questions that property managers have is how they can grow their business and add more doors. Now, social media has opened up a wide range of opportunities to make this happen. But growing your business through social media is easier said than done, unless you have 10 years of experience and have worked with top brands like my guest today, Mary Cate Spires. Thank you for joining us today, Mary Cate.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I am really excited because digital marketing is a great way for people to, like I mentioned, to start reaching new clients in a new ways. And I'm going to be picking Mary Cate's brain here today so that way we can all have a better idea on how we can leverage digital marketing to grow our businesses. I am the host. I am RJ. I am your host, and you are watching the PMP Podcast. All right, Mary Cate. Well, thanks again for being here. And before we get started, I want to get some background for you. Now, I mentioned here at the beginning that you do have 10 years experience in digital marketing, but tell me more about your background. What interested you in digital marketing and how you got started?
Yeah, so I had a interesting journey into digital marketing. So I was in college and thought I wanted to change the world like most college students do, and was actually a political science major. I wanted to go into public policy, influence things, and took one poli-sci class and immediately knew that was not for me. So I needed to change my major. I'd always been drawn to public relations for some reason. So I took a journalism class. In my journalism class, because 10 years ago, there were no digital marketing classes, there were no social media classes, it just didn't happen. But in my journalism class, they offered extra credit if you applied for an internship. And I happened to meet who ended up being my mentor. And I got the internship, and at that time, it was all about social media. I actually helped social media for a political campaign. She brought me back the next semester and started teaching me all about inbound marketing and HubSpot. And it just went from there. I have never used my degree in public relations, but I'm doing okay.
Well, that's awesome, and I find it really funny. I majored in media in college, and I would tell people I actually wanted to go into public relations, even though I never did, because I figured that apart from being a world dictator, public relations is the best way to control people's thoughts and opinions and everything. So I see a connection there. This trend line. So once you started getting your feet wet in the world of digital marketing, what was it that you really liked about it? What really made it so fascinating to you?
Yeah. So I learned about a theory, I guess you can called inbound marketing, which was very new at the time. It was coined by HubSpot, which is a software company. But the whole theory is to educate your consumers instead of talk at them. So billboard, most traditional advertising, print advertising, TV, it's all about how great you are, why you should like me, all that. And it's very just kind of in your face. And I've always been the kind of person, I like to invite you into my space. I don't need you to be up in it. And so the difference with inbound marketing is actually meeting the buyer where they are in their journey and educating them. And so I loved that because you're helping people. And so even if they don't end up choosing you, which a lot of times they do because you've helped them with their problem, but you're still helping them. And it's much less grimy. It feels better. And then I, through the years, fell in love with the strategy of it all, kind of understanding how people think. And then also data. I love data. I don't believe people should spend any money on marketing unless you're tracking it appropriately to see if it's actually working. And so I spend a lot of my time now making all those connections work so that you're tracking the marketing appropriately.
Yeah, absolutely. That totally makes sense. Obviously, you don't want to be wasting money. And um, before we go too further down the rabbit hole, again, people are going to be watching this with different levels of experience, and so I want to get clear definitions here. So,
Yes.
what exactly is digital marketing? I mean, people use this word a lot, but can we establish exactly what that is?
Yeah, so digital marketing is any type of marketing that's done online. So this can include social media, blogging, your website is part of your digital marketing efforts. Digital podcasts are part, YouTube, really anything. If you go online and you're looking for something, Google Business, all of that is going to all fall under digital marketing. And of course, as new things come up, they just get added under that. And so as consumers, we all use the internet. And so digital marketing is just how your business is going to use those same tools to reach your consumers.
Okay, so in essence, it would be safe to say digital marketing is the marketing that happens online in a very broad sense. Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. And then with that, then it also sounds like, and I'm going to be using some probably more interesting terms here. So, but you have organic and paid digital marketing as well. And
Yes.
so you mentioned like a blog. That is, assuming you're writing your own blog post, that would be something that's organic. Doing a podcast, that's something again that's more organic, and then paid advertising. That's the paid side of digital marketing. So what are the benefits of digital marketing compared to say traditional marketing? Now, again, with property management, it tends to be a bit more slower to change. I mean, it's getting better, I would say, as the industry goes. But there's a lot of still old marketing strategies that are used and still being effective. I don't want to throw these other marketing strategies under the bus. So why should digital marketing be so important to a property manager?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it really comes down to, what's working and being able to track it. But digital marketing, there's a lot of things. There's one, it's where your consumers typically are. And it's important to do your buyer research. Maybe your buyers are not online, and then that's okay. But most buyers today are researching online before they make any decision. I look up restaurants near me probably every day. And of course, it's a restaurant example, but that is something I do every single day. And so obviously I make a lot of decisions online. So that's where people are. That's where their expectations are. A lot of people, as things shift and more information is available, a lot of people want to be able to do their own research and get as much information as possible before they pick up the phone or walk into your building. And so they expect that information to be available. And if your competitor has that information available online, you might not be in the mix anymore. So expectations, and that's where people are. But then it's typically cheaper. If you're doing it correctly, you have the right partners in place, you can be more targeted with digital marketing. The more targeted you are, the less it will cost you with advertising. And then content, organic, you're talking about. You typically, even if you're paying an agency or a consultant, you're going to pay it that one time for that blog. But that blog, if done correctly, is going to live forever. So you're not having to, pay for that article in the magazine every single time the magazine comes out. And then also there's the flexibility of digital marketing. So I am very anti-billboards. Everyone in my family makes fun of me for it. And I've had the experience, I've done them. They have not worked in my experience. But again, that is, my limited experience. But with my example always is a billboard. And it usually costs about $1,500 to change your design of a billboard. That is very expensive. Mm-hmm. A Facebook ad, which is more targeted, and someone can click through and find more information, you can make that change yourself, or you can just, work with your partner and easily get that changed and test. And you just have so much more flexibility with digital. And then lastly, my favorite thing is it's so much more trackable. You can do tracking phone numbers and tracking URLs when it comes to traditional. And you do get some information from that, but you get so much more information from digital marketing because it's all connected. And it's never perfect. You're not going to be able to see customer A started here and then did 8 things and all of a sudden moved in. Monday maybe, but you're going to have a much better idea than if they just happen to drive by your billboard and walk in.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you put a billboard up on a highway, you might have an idea of the average people who drive by, but what the people do for a living, what their income is, are they educated? I mean, these are things that you can target on Facebook, I'm sure. So with billboards versus, again, just advertising on Facebook as one example, yeah, for sure, the targeting is going to be way more precise there. Um, and
Wow.
so you mentioned again the ROI. Obviously, this is a really big important thing, and I've heard the same thing from other people, that billboards, that they don't have the ROI that's easy to measure, at least. And again, from my understanding, billboards are a little bit different because they're almost more of like I'm not a marketer, so there's probably a term for this, but like a lower tier where it's not about actually getting people to take action, but just keeping people on top of mind, having a presence in a market, and which is
Brand
and it's hard,
awareness.
yeah, exactly. It's hard to brand awareness. Thank you. It's hard to really measure that. But when it comes to so going back to digital marketing though, what are some of the channels that you see are probably the places people should start? Like if putting a billboard up is something that you do once you're McDonald's and you just want to have that brand awareness and people aren't Brett McDonald's, where would be a good place to start in digital marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me tell you, if you've got the budget for all of it, put the billboard up,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't typically work with clients who can just throw money at everything, but sometimes you can. I love a good billboard, a good McDonald's billboard. I would definitely say make sure your website is a good experience. That is your foundation. From a property management standpoint, I would also highly recommend getting your Google business in order. So that is what shows up. If someone searches, apartment near me, those are the things that are going to show up. And so that is high intent. So those are people who are likely looking for you and are somewhat ready to buy. So that's going to have your best likely ROI to begin with. That is a must. Making sure that's optimized, making sure you're getting reviews, that's going to make a really, really big difference. And then from there, it's kind of a mix of content and advertising. If you need that brand awareness, Facebook and display advertising are absolutely amazing, much lower cost. Definitely highly recommend getting a good partner for that though. Facebook and Google, they just want your money. So they'll tell you how they think that you should run your ads, but that's not always the best way to get the most bang for your buck. So it really is a good investment to work with someone who has got nitty-gritty experience in those particular platforms. And then what I like to say is you should start your paid, and that's Google ads too, the search ads. And then on the back end, you should be working on your content, because content is king. Content you can run ads to, but also, like I said, that content is going to live forever. So if you invest in it, that is what's going to help you long term. And I might actually be able to lower your spend in advertising once your content really starts to start ranking and do all the things that Google loves it to do. But it is a slower play. So it's kind of a 1-2 punch.
Okay, so make sure I got all that. So
I know it was a lot.
No. That's what I want to recap here. So start off website. Want to make sure we have our website in order, and then also our Google business. And the Google business, if I understand it correctly, that's where, let's say I go and search ABC property management. You pop up with a little map location and a picture of the front of the building and a 5-star rating and all that. I'm assuming 5-star rating, if people are doing their good jobs there. And then. And on top of that, then search ads. Now, search ads, in the case of Google, again, that's where someone searches for ABC property management, and you pop up with, it says ad ABC property management, top property management company in ABC town. Or if someone searches for ABC property management and you're not ABC property management, you pop up at the top and say, we're XYZ property management, and we do way better than ABC. And then finally, content, and then that's your YouTube videos, blog posts, podcasts, all of those sorts of things. Did I miss anything there?
No, that's definitely it. Kind of an extra thing on content is downloadable guides. So that is a great way to get someone's information, even if they're not ready to start talking to you yet. And that's where, once you have their information, you can actually start nurturing them with emails and sometimes even text messages. And that's a great way to help them through their journey, give them more information wherever they are, and then also keep your business top of mind for when they are ready to buy or rent.
Now, so where would the downloadable guides be? Would that be something that just lives on the website? Is that goes on a landing page, or what's the best way of getting those distributed?
Yeah, so typically you've got some call to action strategically placed in your website that take the user to a landing page. The landing page has a little bit of information on why you should download this. So you have, getting a little complicated here, but there's typically 3 stages of a buyer's journey. There's awareness, which we've been talking about. They know they have a problem, but they don't exactly know what the answer to that problem is. So in this case, they know they need a new place to live, but what are all the options for that? And so that's where you would help them understand what the options are to solve their problem. You have a guide for that. You have videos. There's all sorts of things you can do for that. And then the next stage in that is consideration. Okay, they know their options. They're going to consider the different options. Maybe they want to rent an apartment. Maybe they want to buy a condo or buy a house or all these different things. Maybe they want to live in Airbnbs for the rest of their life. And so you help them kind of compare those different options. And then once they've decided they want your solution to their problem, that's the decision stage. And that's where you start looking at you versus the competition and, why we're better than the competition to solve your particular problem.
Okay. And I also want to specify here, there's when it comes to property management, there's 2 sides. There's the side of finding tenants to put into the apartment buildings, and then there's the side of finding owners and investors who have properties that need to be managed. And so, and this is also part of the challenge, is that being able to go and market on both sides can be, it creates a bit of challenges, especially when, if you're trying to say, hey, we are going to, get you to top rents and have almost no maintenance expenses for you, then and a tendency of that and say, so I'm going to pay for a rent and then also not get any maintenance work done. And so it creates a bit of a conflict there. And maybe we can get more into that. But I want to go and kind of go through a couple of these things here. So what makes a good website? Because this is something that I'll notice, and maybe this might be too broad for a quick answer. But I'll go into some websites and they seem good, and I go into other websites and they seem not good, and I don't know how to quantify or qualify what makes a website good or bad, or why I like one website over another. And what's a good way? I mean, is it a matter that people just use Wix, or is it a case that you actually need to go and hire someone to do a proper WordPress website, or what can you tell me about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually do a lot of competitive research for my clients, and I create this report card. And the very first thing is the website. So I'll tell you how I grade websites. So there's a couple of things, and it's very specific. It should be very specific to industry, and it should be very specific to, who you're trying to target. Because depending on your industry and who you're trying to target, you might not need as much information on your website. But for me, you need to have enough information on your website so that the buyer is not likely to leave and go try to find that information somewhere else. The biggest thing, in my opinion, is you don't want someone to leave your website unless they're walking out the door to go visit you in person or picking up the phone to call. So you need to have a good amount of information. Like I said earlier, people are used to now being able to get the information they want. So a lot of people have issues, particularly in some industries, with sharing pricing online. And unfortunately, the way things are moving now, you have to be as transparent as possible, because if your competitor is sharing, they're going to be more likely to move there. So again, you want as much information as you and your stakeholders are comfortable sharing. What's the process? Just everything that can be in there, but to a point where it's not overwhelming. I saw a website 2 days ago that it had so many pages on the website. It had 2 navigations. There was one at the top and one on the side, and they were completely different. It was way too much information. So it still needs to be easy to navigate. You need to be able to find that information easily. So it's a little bit of a balance. So that's really important. And then you can kind of get into the technical sides of things. Typically, it's not as highly debated now, but it used to be, should there be one long scrolling page or should it be multiple pages? And there's a lot of debate on that. My opinion is it should be multiple pages because those are more chances to rank in your search engines. Every single page can rank. Then you need to look at page speed. Is your page loading fast enough? That's a factor in your Google rankings. And then it should be visually appealing, in my opinion. I see a lot of dated websites, and if you go to a website and you get a feeling about something, you want your website to be how you want people to feel about your business. So you don't want, old photos or old design elements, because then, maybe in case you have a customer who really likes that old feeling, then completely ignore me. But you kind of, your website should be an extension of what you want people to feel when they walk into your business.
Yes, I that makes perfect sense. And actually, I want to I had this idea of branding and trying to identify what exactly is branding. And the best answer I got to put this is that it's every experience that a customer has with your company. So it's how you interact on the phone. It's how your website views when they go to it. And so oftentimes, again, let's imagine this situation where a property management company sends out these direct mailers that go to the person's house. They get it. They say, hey, we can go and provide management services for your property. And I say, well, I actually need this. I want to go on a bunch of vacations. I need someone to watch over my property while I'm gone. So they, again, like you said, they're going to go and Google the person and find out, is this person legit? And when they go to the website, if that website doesn't feel them, just again, give that feel that it's not something that I'm sure can be quantified by some people who are designers, but I can't quantify it. But if it has that feel that yes, these are professionals, that they know what they're doing, and it doesn't look overly flashy and overly overdone, and it doesn't look dated. That's the first part of branding that, well, I guess technically the second, because the first one is the mailer receives. But it's a big part of the branding that people will decide if people are actually going to reach out and contact you at that point. So I can see that being an extremely important thing. You also mentioned duplicate content, and I had a question on that. Are you talking about content that is duplicated within the website itself, or content that is duplicated from other places?
Both.
Okay.
So, and this is I have a lot of, I work a lot with the companies that have multiple locations. And so in my opinion, from an SEO perspective, those should all live on the same domain, even if they're little websites all on that same domain. It can get really complicated. But when you have multiple businesses that all do the same thing, it can be really easy to, copy and paste. And don't quote me on this, but the last time I heard, I'm pretty sure it's every 6th or 7th word needs to be different to not count as duplicate content. So you can get away with borrowing from other pages, but it should still be somewhat different. So Google doesn't want you to think that you're plagiarizing. So that's if it's duplicate from outside your website. And then also, in Google's opinion, if you have the same page on, or you have the same information on multiple pages, why would it rank both of those pages? So you need to give it different enough so that it's still it. Because at the end of the day, Google doesn't care about businesses. They do because they want our money, but for Google to be successful, it has to have a good user experience. So all of the decisions they make from a ranking factor are, when you Google something, are you going to actually get what you're looking for? So that's something that's good to keep in mind when creating content and trying to do SEO that changes every 2 days, I swear.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also, and when I get down to content, this is another thing to keep in mind with content, that it's important also that the blogs then are also originally written blogs. And again, one of the experiences I have a lot is when I'm working, for a property management company, and there's a lot of emails that just go into the main email for blog writers, that's saying, hey, I want to go and write free blog posts for you. And I these always go to junk mail because frankly, I have no way of even knowing if they're going to actually give original content that isn't plagiarized. And so just it creates some challenges. So something that people should be aware of, make sure you avoid plagiarism because obviously Google does not like that. Okay, great. So you have a good idea about the website there. And then Google Business. Now, to set up a Google Business, do you need to actually hire a company to go and set that up, or is that something that a person can do on their own?
So you can do it on your own. It's 100% free. I think it is the best resource in the world. I personally recommend working with a consultant or an agency to at least optimize it for you. Mm-hmm. Typically, that can be really cost effective. But again, Google is changing features and rules all the time. So it is nice to have an outside party who can help you take advantage of all of those features. My husband works with me and he loves Google. And so he keeps me very up to date on all the changes because again, it changes so much. And they're investing a lot in Google Business. So that in particular is changing, but there's so many things. You could put your floor plans on there. You can add Q&As. You can actually post to Google like a social media account now. And so even if you just find someone who can kind of advise you or find a really good article, just make sure that you're taking advantage of all of that because that is really going to go a long way in helping you rank.
Yeah, and one of the features also with Google Business is, I believe this is where it's located, is the Google reviews, which of course is an extremely, I don't think I need to tell people how important Google reviews are, but more specifically what Google Business will allow you to do is respond to those reviews. Yes. And this is, again, reality of property management is that most of the interactions people have with property managers are not particularly positive. Because if you're living in your house and the house is operating properly and the rent is being paid on time, there's no reason to have interactions and it goes normally. But if something breaks down and your heater's not working and it's winter, or you are late on rent and you have these late fees that come up, I mean, these are always unpleasant experiences, and so there tends to be a case where the industry really gets a lot of bad reviews, even if they're not necessarily deserved. And this is an incredibly powerful thing that people can do by setting up their Google Business, is being able to respond to those reviews. And so, again, all the things you mentioned as well. Yes, there's a bunch of other features, but I know this is the one that we've used a lot in the past, is being able to make sure we can respond to those reviews. It can't be overestimated.
Yeah, and a couple of things about that. So first of all, you should always be requesting reviews from happy people to help with your rankings. Yes. A fun fact is, if I were to search best XYZ near me, any business that does not have a 4.0 rating or higher will be automatically removed from the search results. So you should always be working towards that 4.0 or higher, or you're just sometimes not going to show up, which is sad. And then the other thing to think about is yes, you have to respond to reviews, good, bad, neutral. That is a ranking factor if you're responding to reviews, but also a very large amount of people read reviews, but also the response. The person you're responding to may never look at your response, may not care, but a potential prospect is going to look at that review and how you handle that situation. So it's extremely important.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's the response isn't actually written. I mean, the way you write it is that you're responding to the person, but the audience you're writing it to are future clients and future customers that are reading it, not the actual person. And it's very important not to take things personally and to be professional because of that. And I've written plenty of review responses, and there's a lot of times I'll have to go and write the review I want to say and then get rid of it, and then write the review I'm going to say. And that's a bit more professional because it can be hard sometimes.
We all want to clap back at what people are saying and tell them, well, you were a really bad tenant. But unfortunately, Google reads that too. So it's also a ranking factor. And as much as we'd all love to go viral for the funny response, probably not going to help us from a business standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. And this is all what it's all about. It's all about, growing the business. So, okay, great. And then, then we had search ads. I don't know what you want to add about search ads there. Is there anything, I mean, it's one thing that I know you did mention is that what Google tells you you should be doing isn't necessarily what you should be doing. So can you briefly comment about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, Google wants your money, as any business does. And when you set up a Google ad account, they will walk you through it. And you think life is so easy and you will get results. But from personal experience, actually working with companies who have done this for multiple industries, they kind of are able to hack it a little bit and make it work better than what Google is telling you to do. So that includes, excluding keywords. So maybe you have a certain income that you're looking for, and so you don't want to show up for the word low rent. And so there you can tell Google, I don't want to show up for that. And then there's all these different, it's so complicated. There's all these different matching types that I am a big believer in finding really good partners who have deep expertise in these types of things because it is so complicated. But even I moved to a new Google partner about 2 years ago. And one thing I had no idea that you could do was in Google Ads. I knew you could do this for Google display ads. So the little images, you can retarget someone. So if they've already been to your website, you can show them a different ad later. You can actually do that with search ads as well. So if they've been to your website, you can actually show them a different piece of content or a different wording. I had no idea. Google doesn't advertise that. And so that's a great example of people who can get into that nitty gritty and really help you. And those are typically less expensive because you're only targeting people who've been to your website. And so again, it all comes back to being efficient with your marketing. And I'm a marketer. I love to spend money. But again, I'm a big believer in testing and spending money on things that are actually going or likely going to provide results instead of just spending the money for the heck of it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that we had in a previous company I worked for was bullets and cannonballs. And the idea be that you use small little targeted things and seeing, all right, do we have our aim on? All right, it's working, it's effective. Let's now do the cannonballs and just, take the target out fully.
I love that. That's exactly what I do. I've just never called it that.
Yeah. So, hey, if you want to start using that, I don't have any rights on it. So, okay, great. So, and this is something I can also testify to. There's what I found. This is actually definitely Facebook is more, I would say, guilty of this, for lack of a better word, is they have their boost post option on Facebook, which it's an easy thing to do. It's an easy way to spend marketing money. It's not necessarily an effective way to spend marketing money. And then when you actually go into the back end of Google Ads, Facebook ads, the complexity there and the options and and all the rules that are involved with it become way more complex. And so I think this is something that people should be aware of, and why it is worthwhile working with an experienced digital marketer is because the companies will provide easy ways for you to spend your money, but that doesn't mean it's an easy way for you actually to get results. And that's a very important distinction to make that I think often goes overlooked.
Absolutely.
So there's content, and again, I'm host of a podcast. I'm very big into content, and so when it comes to content, what are some of the best forms of content that have ROI? You mentioned that you really care about the numbers and return on investment. So what do you see as having the best ROI when it comes to content?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it comes down to what your goal is. So I'm a big fan of looking at your existing data and then deciding what you're going to focus on and adjust that from there. So if you're looking for brand awareness, you're like, no one knows about us, we need brand awareness. Video, podcasts, social media, heck yeah, put it out there. Again, well, social media, not so much, but podcasts and YouTube videos, those are going to live for a long time. They're going to help you with, it could be educational, it could be brand awareness, all of that good stuff. Lead generation, that's going to be a little bit more your blogging driving traffic to your website is going to be your blogging. And then that can also lead to lead generation with your downloadable guides, long form. I also love interactive tools for lead generation. People love to just click around and enjoy what you're offering. So this could be quizzes or calculators or anything like that. I like to have different forms of content in general because people consume content differently. So for my personal content, I'll do a video about a topic and then also write a blog about that topic. And I'll put the video on top of the blog. But maybe you don't want to watch a video today and you can read about it. And so trying to meet people where they are. And then lead nurturing. You have a bunch of leads in your database, but they're just not talking to you. That's where email is going to come in, and text marketing. So there's a lot, and they all work together. So no, I'm not giving you, I love content too. I think it can do a lot. If you're just getting started, I would definitely kind of pick one based on a goal and invest in it. But I am, in my experience, lead generation and nurturing are typically big goals. So I would focus on blogging, long form content, and then some great lead nurturing emails.
Okay, perfect. And one thing, also when you mentioned about the content and you're talking about doing a podcast and the videos, are you familiar with Douglas Kruger? He's more prominent out of South Africa, actually.
No.
But he's I forget the name of his book. He's written several books, and his whole idea is that you want to position yourself as an expert in your field. And he has a lot of good examples, and you can Google him on or look him up on YouTube. He has a bunch of speeches that he's given. Really great speaker. I like his speeches better than his books, admittedly, but that's just me. Great concepts. But the idea is that if you're going on to podcasts or creating your own podcast, and let's say you are in Chicago and you're a property manager in Chicago, and you have a podcast about investing in Chicago real estate as a property manager and showing your experience, your challenges, people will now view you as the expert in that field. And so if you're an investor, do you want to work with the expert in the field of investing in Chicago? Or do you want to work with another person who is not the expert? Now, the other person may actually technically be better at their job, but it's the person who is viewed as the expert is the person who's out there talking, out there creating the content, and that is the real value that I see with having content.
Absolutely. And that's part of inbound marketing too. You're the one who's helping them with whatever issue they're facing. You're the one who's providing that information. And so when it's time to start working with someone, I'm going to go to the person who's been giving me all this content that's helped me so far.
Now, see, one of the things you mentioned before, and actually just now about providing the information, is the idea of, I think you said it was inbound marketing, that you're providing the information to the prospective person you want to work with. Now, a lot of people, they get very antsy about this. I know I brought this up with another property management company, telling them that they should, again, do a podcast, have something that's giving people actual advice, real world things, not just talking these vague terms, but giving real examples about what they can do and how they can solve their problems. And response oftentimes is that, well, I don't want to give away my secrets. I don't want to, like, if I do that, then why would they come to me and work with me? So now for me, I don't see that as a concern, but I'm curious, what are your thoughts? Why is that not a concern?
I get the same question or response all the time. In my opinion, which I joke, overwhelm them with information, then they're going to be begging you to help them. But if you can lay it out for them, listen, everyone who finds that content is not going to become a customer. That's just the way it is. But you're going to be an expert. You're going to be helping them. So maybe down the line, they're going to come back to you. But then also, you're going to get people like me. I am not a do-it-yourselfer kind of person. I know what I'm really good at. I know what my strengths are. And I want to find experts, partners who are really good at what they do. And so by explaining it to me and showing your expertise, I'm going to trust you. And I might be overwhelmed by all the steps it takes. And I'll be like, you know what? I obviously need to work with you because you know what you're talking about. So I'm all for it. I believe more information is better. Sometimes withholding information can feel a little sketchy to a consumer. And so again, understand who your buyers are and what information they're looking for, and then go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's some things that are worthwhile not disclosing. And a good example of this is if you're in a market, again, let's say Chicago, and you've been in the market as a property manager for 10 years, and you've built up a list of top quality vendors that provide great service, timely, are trustworthy. Like, if you start giving that information out, now those people aren't going to be as available to work with you, and it can create problems where it actually starts affecting you negatively. So there could be some situations like that. But overall, I mean, again, a good example. Let's go use a HVAC specialist comes to me and says, "Hey, your furnace is broken. Now I can go and fix it for you, or I will write up the exact instructions on how you can go and fix it yourself." Now, if someone's actually willing to go and fix it themselves, I don't want them as my client, because they're going to always be trying to like micromanage this process. They're going to be looking for other, ways that they might be able to take things on, or if they don't understand things, they're going to want more detailed explanations. And I'm going to spend more time trying to manage the client and explain the process and explain all these things. And so if someone wants to do it themselves, by all means, let them do it themselves, and take those clients who understand, hey, I'm not the expert. I want to defer to the expert and let them take care of it.
Yep, absolutely.
So let's go. You're talking about the three stages here before, and so the first stage is so someone realizes they have a problem, and I'm going to try and create a scenario here, because again, one of the big ways that people will do marketing in this space is with direct mail. So they'll find, and there's a couple ways to do it, but basically they'll send out the mailers, and so you have a property owner that receives this mailer saying, "Hey, we can manage your property, give you good returns, give whatever the actual messaging is." So where does it go from there? What are the next steps after the person acknowledges that, yes, I have a problem that I need solved?
Yeah, absolutely. So depending on what that problem is, so I'm decided I need something. I don't want to deal with my property right now. That's that. So the first thing that I go try to understand, so I have a house right now, and let's say we buy another house, and okay, I want to rent this out. I have no idea how to start that. So my problem is, where the heck do I start if I want to rent my house? And so that's my problem. And awareness is going to be me Googling how do people do this? And so that's the content that you're gonna get. And then from there, I might narrow it down. I can do it myself. I could hire a property management company, or I could just sell my house because I really don't want to deal with it. So those are the options I'm considering to solve my problem. I'll again go find content, comparing those options. Maybe I'll do a quiz. And I finally decide, okay, I want to hire a property management company because I don't want to deal with it myself. From there, that's when I'm going to start looking at those specific property management company options and comparing them. That's where you're like, direct mail is hard because it's hard to match intent with direct mail. So a mailer wouldn't know that I'm at that stage of my journey. But that's where the information of higher returns and, low maintenance costs, that's where that's important, because I'm looking at, XYZ across the street, and that's where I'm comparing those two. So that the decision stage is kind of where that sales person gets involved and starts helping me understand why they're better than the competition.
Okay. So I want to make sure I'm understanding this. So the first part is understanding that there is a problem. The second problem is making the decision. Is that the second step then?
So the first step is you have a problem, put a name to that problem. Then you're going to look at, then it's comparing all of the options to solve your problem. Then once you've decided how you want to solve the problem, who are you going to solve it with? So it's what, which, who. What is the problem? Which solution do I want to go with? Who is going to help me solve that problem?
Now, when it comes to deciding, which solution that you want to go with, in your experience, how rational are people when they make those decisions?
Typically, so the thing about the buyer's journey is someone could start at any stage of it. They might already
Mm-hmm.
know. They might start in the decision stage. They might
Yeah.
start in the consideration stage. And you're going to get all sorts of different people. Typically, though, in my experience, the people who are finding that content that you've created are genuinely wanting more information to make that decision. So if you can lay it out for them and help them understand why your solution or your type of solution is the best one, people do go down that path. It's
Okay.
not a wasted effort.
So it's a matter of, again, this is where you're saying that it's not a matter of it being there's one answer. It's a matter about this whole holistic solution, that if you need to have the content already in place, so that way when someone is there, and it can reach that kind of person. So in that case, it's probably also a matter. I think you also mentioned this before when talking about content, about not just having different kind of contents in a sense of blog posts and Instagram posts and videos, but also making sure that when you make the content, you are thinking about what your clients would want to know, what answer your clients have, and then trying to preemptively answer those questions as within the content. So that way, when it gets to the point of comparing those options, the idea being, and hopefully I have this right, that they're looking at your content, they're getting the answers from your content, and your competitor isn't giving the same answers, doesn't have the same amount of information, and so therefore the decision becomes more clear about how they should move forward.
Absolutely. And if you approach all of this from the standpoint of trying to help someone, I mean, we're all trying to make money at the end of the day, but if you
Mm-hmm.
really create this content of, I just want to help you understand what your options are or why this is the best option, it's going to be more genuine. And again, it's going to be what someone's looking for, and they will go down that journey. And if you're in this content in this way is something that so many industries are not doing. And so this is something that can easily make you stand out from the competition, because I promise you, people are looking for this type of information, and they're probably finding it on an lead aggregator website or, Wikipedia. And why those are potential leads? Why let them just go somewhere else? And again, once they get to the point where they're deciding, they're going to remember that you helped them solve that problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So you also, I mentioned before that you work with a lot of companies that have different locations, and also I understand that you've written a book about the topic.
It's
So
it's it's up there. You can't really see it. It's thin, so you can't see it, but it is up there.
yeah, and so I don't have the name written down. Is on the map. How to do digital
A
marketing for
long
multiple locations.
subtitle.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
You are completely excused because I can never even remember it. But it's on the map.
Okay.
It's about helping multi-location businesses get results from digital marketing. It's a great getting started book for all of what we've talked about.
So I don't know if this will apply here either, but a lot of times you'll have a property management company that's going to have multiple apartment complexes. Now, and they need to, and this is going again more toward the tenant marketing side.
Yep.
But again, we're coming to the near the end of the show, so we don't have a lot to get into this. So we'll get maybe more of a teaser than anything else. But what are some good ways, or what are some differences that people should be aware of when trying to do the marketing for these different apartment complexes, so that way they're not competing with themselves?
That's a great question. And it's difficult, right? That's where really good ad partners are going to come into play, because they are going to be able to draw those lines, focus on different keywords. And it might be under, again, I keep saying it, but coming back to your buyer, maybe the different complexes have different target audiences. So that's a great way to make sure they're not competing. And focusing on those differentiators. I have a client that has literally 2 properties a block away from each other, and it has always been a challenge because you can imagine that's really hard to draw lines around. But they have 2 very distinctly different target audiences. They're different budget levels, and so that is how we've been able to make sure that they're both getting the leads that they need.
Awesome. Well, I might have to have you, back at some time to talk more about that. But I also understand that you are, you have a consulting agency. Make sure I get this correct.
Yes.
That is specifically focused on trying to help property managers with their digital marketing. Can you tell me more about, what you're offering there, and how that all works? And again, if people want to reach out to you and maybe have questions or get your consulting services, how they should do that?
Yes, so I'm very busy. I have 3 businesses. We have a HubSpot partner agency. So we're certified HubSpot partners. Again, I talked about it. HubSpot is a fantastic software that helps with everything we've talked about. This agency is called Harley James Consulting, and we offer HubSpot implementation, consulting services, and then all of the content that we've been talking about. We do all of that, soup to nuts. Again, we're big content people. Ours is a little bit more of the written word, but we consult on all the content. I also consult just as myself for a little bit more custom things. And then I do have a third business called Reputation Avenue, which is all about Google reviews and Google listings. And so I'm available, Mary Cate with a C, on any social media platform. And then Harley James is definitely focused on property management, and can help with whatever needs on all that we've talked about.
All right, perfect. And for Harley James, what's the best way to find Harley James?
HarleyJamesConsulting.com.
HarleyJamesConsulting.com. And if you are watching this on any in the video format, I'll be making sure that I put all of that on screen, so you can copy that as well in the descriptions as well, so you can link to that. So I really want to thank you, Mary Cate, for coming in and sharing your insight and your experience with digital marketing. I'm sure it's going to be extremely valuable to our listeners here, and it was great having you.
Yes, thank you so much. I had a blast.
All right. Well, I might have to have you again, talk more about some of these other topics. And so, yeah, thanks again. And thank you guys for listening to the PMP Podcast. I'm RJ, your host. Have a great day.